Hey, my name is Mike, and this is a too long didn't need version of Archimonde on normal and heroic. In phase 1, the boss will do Death Brand on the tanks, which deals a high amount of damage and should be mitigated. The tank hit by this will spawn a Hellfire Deathcaller, and he should no longer be tanking Archimonde. As long as a Deathcaller is alive, he'll be hitting the tank as well as a few random people with an ability that increases the shadow damage they take by 25%. Archimonde will spawn these orbs in front of him. These orbs will fixate a random player for 10 seconds and create a line of fire towards that person. If you're targeted, just run it away from the raid. Throughout the majority of this fight, the fire that this orb spawns will be moved around during Allure of Flames, so the faster you kill it, the less fire you have. These green swirlies indicate Allure of Flames is happening and you need to move. Archimonde will also do Shadow Burst on a ranged player. It'll knock one person and anyone within 8 yards of them up into the air. When they land, they'll do damage split amongst everyone within 8 yards of this purple thing. Make sure you're spreading out for this so only one person goes up. At 85%, he'll start to spawn these pillars around the room. They do damage where they spawn as well as do raid-wide AoE. One of the NPCs in this area will kill the pillar, and when it dies, it spawns these orbs that when picked up, they'll make you immune to shadow damage and increase your movement speed by 25% as well as anyone around you. Every pillar that spawns does more damage than the last one. For phase 1, it's best to just tank the boss facing the ranged. Whoever's fixated by the spirit will just run out of the raid. During Allure of Flames, you can just move to the opposite side of the room or diagonally. As soon as someone gets knocked out for Shadow Burst, you can go ahead and stack up for Allure of Flames so all that fire gets put into one spot. Your priority in this phase is the orb, the Deathcaller, and then Archimonde. At 70%, phase 2 starts. The boss continues to do Death Brand, which spawns the Hellfire Deathcaller, and he continues to move the flames around the room. A new ability he starts doing until the end of the fight is called Shackled Torment, and it's an increasing dot put on 3 people. To remove this, you have to run 30 yards away from the ad that's putting a purple beam on you. But when you do this, you do raid-wide AoE, so make sure not all of the shackles are being broken at once. Another ability he does until the end of the fight is called Wrought and Focused Chaos. These are 5-second debuffs put on 2 people. After 5 seconds, this giant beam will come out between these 2 people and hit anyone inside of it. Make sure this is going outside of the raid. At 55%, the boss will start spawning 4 ads. He'll spawn an Overfiend, which cannot be tanked and does an interruptible raid-wide AoE called Heart of Argus every time his health drops by 25%. He also spawns 3 Dreadstalkers. These will teleport to a random location and start casting an ability. If you're standing in this area when that cast is done, you're going to be interrupted and you'll take damage. This phase worked pretty much the same as phase 1. Wrought Chaos was just moved to the outside of the raid. We ping-pong back and forth between locations for our Allure of Flames. Shackled Torment was called out by a healer to break one by one, and we focused down the ads before killing Archimonde. At 40%, phase 3 will start. He no longer puts Death Brand on the tank, which means a Deathcaller ad will no longer spawn. The Overfiend and the Dreadstalkers also stop spawning, and he also stops moving the fires. In this phase, everyone should try to stay spread out 6 yards from each other. This is for demonic feedback, which deals damage to you and anyone around you. The new tank ability is called Nether Banish, and it's an 8-second debuff. The tank that gets this has this rune put around them. When it expires, the tank and anyone in that room gets teleported to the Twisting Nether. It also leaves this giant bad thing on the ground. These pools will spawn living shadow ads with increasing frequency as time goes on. These ads will fixate a player, and if they get to them, they'll reduce their healing received by 40% for 45 seconds. In the Twisting Nether, you need to kill this ad. When he dies, he drops a portal you can click to get out. This ad will do an AoE inside of the Nether called Touch of Shadows, which needs to be interrupted. Also spawning are Void Stars, which will fixate the nearest player. If they get to their target, they'll knock that player and anyone within 8 yards of them off of the platform. The longer this ad is alive, the faster it moves, so you need to kill it really quick. You want to make sure not to stand in these circles. There's also a stacking dot done to anyone inside of the Nether as long as they're inside of it, so you want to get out as quickly as possible. At 25%, the boss will start spawning these green swirlies. The further away you are from them, the less damage you take. Some of these swirlies will spawn Infernal Doombringers, which heal any other Doombringer within 15 yards of them. When this ad gets to 100 energy, they do raid-wide AoE every second. For this phase, the healer continued to call out Shackled Torment. Rot and Focus Chaos continued to move outside of the raid. We had 2 groups set up for Nether Banish, and the tank that had this will also go outside of the raid to drop it. People inside of the Nether had to prioritize the Void Stars before going on the ad. People outside had to focus down the Living Shadow before going back on Archimonde. When the Infernal spawned, we had random people taunting them away from each other so they wouldn't be healed, and then everyone focused on Archimonde. For phase 1, you can save all your defensive cooldowns for when the range get knocked up into the air. In phase 2, you can use them for Shackled Torment, and in phase 3, you can use them during the Infernals. Offensive cooldowns can be used as needed. All of them, including Bloodlust and Heroism, should be up for 25% when the Infernals start spawning. That was a too long didn't need version of Archimonde on normal and heroic. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. Thanks for watching, have an incredible day.